Okay, so let's talk sprinkler heads today. Ceiling tiles with sprinkler heads. These sprinkler heads are great to an extent because they're adjustable. You can move them out of the way to get your tiles in versus rigid cast pipe or steel pipe. But they mounted these the easy way from the bottom. So if you put the tile in, what you have to do to get these in because of this bracket is you actually have to raise the head out of the way to get the tile in and then drop it back down. So a lot of the times we ask them to put the heads in, but we did not know where these tiles ran off to. So they mounted these with this down. Obviously when you put the tile in, you can't use the star number T30 to retighten it. You'd have to do it by hand with pliers, and I came down here from level 6 with minimal tools and just to discover that. So what you can also do, it's a little more difficult possibly, but at least you don't have to screw with raising this up and putting it back where it is you will take your T30 and make sure you do not lose, do not lose this screw and star washer. Attach that to the magnet here. Come on. Sure, now you want to hang on. The last one didn't want to hang on to save its life. There. Okay, so next step. Well, I probably should have done this beforehand. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Alright, this is going to be the hard part to show. You know what? Let's do this for the angle. Let's come back here. Do this. Okay, I'm going to try to stay out of the way of the camera somewhat. Put this right here for the moment. Alright, so when you take your measurements, one dimension is going to flip.
Target is up again, Joe?
No.
When
you're going to be facing the top of the tile while cutting it, but then you're going to flip it when you put it in the ceiling. So one of your measurements is going to flip-flop which side it's on. So you need to think about that ahead of time. So here, screw hole's still aligned, so we're good. A lot of the time, like if you go, I like to do from me away, because then I can come from the top of the ceiling tile towards me. So here, I've got 12 and an eighth, and we'll go from this side, and this will be the same on the tile. That's also 12 and an eighth. Cool. Now, another thing to bear in mind is that ceiling tiles are 23 3/4, not 24. But your space is 24. So you're losing an eighth all the way around. So I just measured 12 and an eighth and 12 and an eighth. So I'm actually going to go 12 and 12. Now, this is going to be a little difficult to see. I'm going to try to tilt it here. What you want to do so that you don't end up with a mark that ends up outside of your cut zone. Let him pass through. Oops. Thank you. What you want to do then is, let me get a better tile. That one looks a little gross. Granted, these are used tiles, but since that's got a sprinkler head, if they complain about it, it'll make it easier to replace by dropping it in a full section that has no cuts. That looks better. Still, no, that one's got edge damage. Okay, much better. No, that's got paint on it. Oh, Jesus. Come on, give me a good one. Okay, there, clean tile. Alright, so, back to what I was saying. This is easier if it's flat, but I can't show you really with it laying flat. So, explain it. So remember how before I said one dimension is going to flip? Remember that's where my dimension came from? So it's opposite here, and that's why I like to do it. So let's do here. What you want to do is take your pencil, or preferably a pencil, and you will set it down at your dimension. So we said it was 12 1/8, it would be 12. Obviously this is gonna slide off. So I'm gonna try to just hold it here. But just set it down at your first number. Don't mark it, just set it down. That way if you're off on where you're supposed to be, you don't have a mark outside of your section you're cutting. So then the other one came from this side. So now you can put your tape measure right along here. Now I can mark my 12 because I know it's right there. And then here, we'll mark that 12. Boom. Look at that nice tight mark right there. Super close. That way you know for sure it's not going to be there. Measure your sprinkler head. Go about 1/4 bigger. If it's cast iron pipe, or steel pipe, you might have to go bigger. It all depends on the head size, and it also depends on what kind of escutcheon they're using. What kind of trim ring. If it's small, you're going to have to stick to being small. If it's bigger, you can give yourself some space. Oh, other thing worth mentioning before you turn this all around, we know that this tile is going to go this way, right? So after you've marked it, make a mark on the back of the tile in one direction and use something that you predetermine ahead of time for each room or area you're going in. For me, I'm using that end of the hallway because I'm working this way. So I will always make my mark pointing that way. So when you put your tile up in there, you don't get all turned around which way it goes. You know exactly which way it goes. I have this set to 2 1/4 because that is 2 inches, and we are lifting it up out of the way and dropping it in so I don't need to finagle it. So we're good there. Go ahead and take your charcoal cutter. Or if you have a hole saw, that works great. I do not. It's usually the electricians and the sprinkler guys that have hole saws. We typically don't. We have these. Now, if you're doing it by hand, like I obviously am, another thing you want to do is when you cut it, what you can do to help you if you can't move the head out of the way, such as with steel pipe, is when you cut it, you want to back bevel your cut all the way around. So while your front remains small enough for that trim ring, you actually end up bigger on the back side, and that gives you more room to tilt the tile and get it up into place without going over the trim ring on the outside. Now, make sure I don't lean that on the wall. Here I've already done one. You can see here that it's beveled bigger towards the back for the most part, and then it just kind of broke off there as I got most of the way around. This tile's pretty thin and soft, but you see I back beveled it. I wouldn't really need to do this with that, but it's just good practice to do anyways. And so when you go to put it in, what you'll end up doing in this instance is you will push that bracket up, bring the ceiling tile in this way, get it to drop into place, drop that bracket back down. Then you're going to have to get up above the tile from the side and put that screw back into the exact same hole you had it in. And in the end, you end up with this. Beautiful. Nice and tight, trim ring covers, good to go. So that's pretty much how you do that. And it just always pay very close attention to where you're taking your measurements from and make sure that you mark your tile so that it's oriented correctly. Otherwise you end up with a bunch of miscuts because oops, I forgot to flip my dimension, or oops, I flipped both my dimensions or something. Or you get it turned around and then you try turning it, nope, not there, turn it again, nope, not there, turn it again, there it is. You know, you can avoid all of that. So I hope that helps. Happy sprinkler cutting.